In this video, we will talk about something very important, something that everyone experiences but few people understand. Failure. Yes, failure. It sounds scary, right? Most people try to avoid it. We feel nervous, embarrassed, or even sad when we fail. But what if I told you that failure is not your enemy? What if I told you that failure can be your teacher, your guide, and even your friend? Today, we will take a journey together. We will see why failure happens, how it feels, and how it can make you stronger. You will meet stories of children learning to ride a bike, students learning English, and even famous people who failed many times before they succeeded. We will learn practical ways to turn failure into power and persistence, and we will celebrate the amazing feeling of winning after struggle. By the end of this video, you will understand one big truth. Failure is part of success. You will feel inspired to try again, to rise after falling, and to embrace every mistake as a step forward. So, stay with me until the end. Watch closely, listen carefully, and think about your own life. Every word in this video is here to help you grow, to give you courage, and to show you that you can succeed, no matter how many times you fail. Get ready, because by the end of this video, you will see failure in a completely new way, and you will be ready to turn it into your power. Chapter 1. The fear of failure. Failure is a word that makes many people feel afraid. When we hear it, we often think of shame, sadness, or disappointment. Nobody likes the idea of failing. It feels heavy, like a shadow that follows us around. Many people stop before they even begin, because they are worried that if they try, they might fail. But here's the truth. Fear of failure is often more dangerous than failure itself. The fear keeps us still. It stops us from moving forward, while failure, when it happens, can actually push us to grow. Think about a child learning to ride a bike. The first time they sit on the seat, their small hands hold the handlebars tightly, and their eyes are full of both excitement and fear. The parent gently pushes the bike forward, and the child feels the wind on their face. For a few seconds, it feels like flying. But then the bike shakes, the balance is lost, and the child falls onto the ground. Maybe the knees get a little scratched, maybe tears come to the eyes. In that moment, the child thinks, "I don't want to do this again. I don't want to fall." The fear grows stronger than the dream of riding. Now imagine if the child decides to stop. They put the bike away and say, "No more. It hurts too much." What happens then? They never learn. They see other children riding freely down the street, laughing, going fast, enjoying the world in a new way. But they stay on the sidewalk, watching, wishing, feeling left behind. This is what fear of failure does. It keeps us safe for a short time, but it locks us away from freedom, from growth, from the joy of success. On the other hand, imagine that the child tries again. The parent encourages them, "Yes, you fell, but get back up. Try once more." The child climbs back on the bike, still nervous but a little stronger. They fall again, maybe 2 or 3 more times. But something starts to change. Each fall teaches them balance. Each mistake shows them what not to do. Slowly, step by step, the child learns to stay on the bike. One day, the child rides across the street without falling, the smile wide, the fear gone. What once seemed impossible now feels easy. This is the power of courage over fear. We are all like that child in different parts of our lives. Maybe it is not a bicycle. Maybe it is learning English, starting a new job, speaking in public, or trying something creative like drawing or writing. In the beginning, fear whispers in our ear, "What if you fail? What if people laugh? What if you look foolish?" And if we listen to that voice, we may never start. We stay where we are, safe but stuck. The problem is that safety is not the same as happiness. Safety without growth can turn into regret. Let's imagine another story, this time about a young student. She is asked to stand in front of the class and read in English. Her hands shake. Her heart beats fast. She thinks, "What if I say the words wrong? What if my classmates laugh?" She considers telling the teacher she is sick or making an excuse to avoid speaking. That is the fear of failure at work. But then she remembers something important. Nobody learns without mistakes. So, she takes a breath, stands tall, and begins to read. Her voice shakes at first, and yes, she makes a few mistakes. But the teacher smiles and helps her. The classmates clap, and suddenly the fear becomes smaller. She realizes, "I failed a little, but I also succeeded." The difference between fear and courage is not that brave people never feel afraid. Courage means feeling afraid, but choosing to act anyway. Fear says, "Stay where you are. Don't risk it." Courage says, "Yes, I might fall, but if I try, I might also fly." The people who never try because they don't want to fail stay stuck in the same place. The people who try, even if they fall, always move forward. Failure becomes a step on the road, not the end of the journey. Think of fear and courage as two doors. Behind the door of fear, everything looks safe, quiet, and familiar. Nothing bad happens there, but nothing new happens either. Behind the door of courage, the world feels uncertain. You don't know what will happen. You might fall. You might struggle, but you might also discover something wonderful. You might unlock a new skill, a new chance, or a new version of yourself. Most people choose the first door because it feels safer, but the truth is, all growth and success live behind the second door, the door of courage. Of course, fear of failure is natural. It is part of being human. Nobody enjoys falling or making mistakes. The first time we experience failure, it can feel like the end. We feel embarrassed and we want to hide. But when we look closer, we see that failure is not the end at all. It is only the beginning. Failure is like a teacher. It shows us what works and what does not. It points us in a better direction. It teaches lessons that success alone can never teach. Imagine again the child with the bike. If they had ridden perfectly the very first time, they might not value the skill so much. But because they fell, because they struggled, riding later feels like a victory. The fear made the success sweeter. The same is true for all of us. The moment we face failure, it feels painful. But later, when we finally win, we see that the fear was not a wall, only a small hill to climb. So the next time you feel afraid of failure, remember these stories. Ask yourself, what will happen if I let fear stop me? Will I stay the same, wishing for more but never trying? Or will I be like the child who keeps climbing back on the bike until riding becomes easy? The choice is always there. Fear can keep you stuck, but courage can take you forward. And here is the secret. Failure does not close doors. It opens them. Each failure is an invitation to grow, to learn, and to discover your strength. When you see it this way, fear begins to lose its power. Instead of thinking, "What if I fail?" you can start to think, What if I succeed because I dared to fail first? This is why we must talk about the true meaning of failure. It is not the enemy. It is the beginning of learning, the start of progress, and the first step toward winning. And once we understand this, we can look at failure with new eyes, not as something to avoid, but as something to welcome. Chapter 2. What failure really means. When most people hear the word failure, they think of weakness. They imagine a person who tried, who fell down, and who could not rise again. They think failure means the end, the finish line, the moment when the story closes. But this idea is not true. Failure does not mean you are weak. Failure does not mean you are finished. Failure is a natural step in growth, the same way falling is a natural step when you learn to walk. Without those small falls, no child would ever take their first real steps. Think of a seed planted in the soil. On the first day, nothing happens. On the second day, nothing happens. If you look at the ground, you might believe the seed is dead, that nothing is working. But under the soil, something powerful is happening. The seed is opening, roots are growing, and life is beginning to push upward. It looks like nothing, but inside, change is taking place. Failure is like this. From the outside, it may look like you lost. You studied but failed the exam. You tried to cook but burned the meal. You wanted to speak but forgot the words. It looks empty, like the soil on day one. But inside, growth is quietly building. The lesson is forming roots that will make you stronger later. The mistake many people make is to think failure means stop. They say, I failed, so I should not try again. They close the book before the story is ready to end. Imagine if the farmer planted seeds, waited 2 days, saw nothing, and then gave up. He might dig out the seeds, throw them away, and say, see, it didn't work. But if he had waited, if he had trusted the process, he would have seen green shoots breaking through the ground. The truth is that failure is not a stop sign. It is more like a traffic light that turns red for a short time. It asks you to pause, to look, to think. Then, when the light turns green again, you move forward, but this time with more wisdom. Here is a simple story. A young man wanted to learn guitar. He dreamed of playing songs for his friends. On the first day, he held the guitar, placed his fingers on the strings, and tried to play a chord. The sound was terrible. His fingers hurt, and the notes were all wrong. He felt embarrassed and thought, maybe I am not good at music. Maybe I should quit. But then he remembered that every great musician once sounded bad. So he kept trying. Day after day, he played the wrong notes. He failed again and again. But each mistake taught him something new. Where to place his fingers, how to hold the guitar, how to change chords. After weeks of practice, the same young man who thought he was failing played his first full song. The failure was not weakness. It was the teacher that showed him the way. Failure is not your enemy. Failure is your guide. Think of it as a mirror. It shows you where you are weak, so you know where to grow stronger. It points to the areas that need more work. If you never fail, you never see your true challenges. And if you never see your challenges, you cannot overcome them. Success hides lessons. Failure reveals them. Let's look at the contrast. The wrong idea is this. Failure means I am not good enough, so I should stop. The true idea is this. Failure means I have something to learn, so I should keep going. In the wrong idea, failure is the final chapter. In the true idea, failure is the first page of a new chapter. The difference between the two is everything. One keeps you small, the other makes you grow. Another way to think about failure is like climbing a mountain. You may fall many times on the rocks. You may slip, get tired, and feel pain. But each fall shows you where not to place your foot. Each mistake teaches you which path is safer. Without those falls, you would not know how to climb higher. When you finally reach the top, the view is beautiful, not just because you made it, but because you remember how many times you slipped and stood again. So, what does failure really mean? It means progress in disguise. It means practice. It means life is teaching you a lesson you could not learn in any other way. The seed grows under the soil. The child falls before walking. The student stumbles before speaking clearly. The worker makes errors before becoming skilled. In every case, failure is not the end. It is the beginning. Many people feel ashamed when they fail. They compare themselves to others and think, "Look at them. They are doing better than me." But what we often forget is that we are seeing only their success, not their failures. Every person you admire has a long history of mistakes, losses, and struggles. The reason they look strong today is because failure trained them yesterday. So instead of asking, "Why did I fail?" we can start asking, "What can I learn from this failure?" That small question changes everything. If you failed an exam, maybe it shows you need to change how you study. If you failed in a job, maybe it shows you need new skills. If you failed in a relationship, maybe it shows you need to understand yourself and others better. Each failure carries a message, and if you listen, the message will guide you forward. The people who refuse to listen repeat the same mistakes. The people who listen turn mistakes into wisdom. So do not be afraid when you fail. Be curious. Look closely at what happened. Ask yourself, what is this failure teaching me? When you do that, failure becomes less scary. It becomes a friend walking beside you, pointing out the path. This is why we must change how we see failure. It is not weakness. It is not the end. It is a natural step in growth, like water for a plant, like practice for a skill, like roots under the soil. The next time you fall, remember the seed. On the surface, it looks like nothing is happening, but deep inside, something powerful is growing. You cannot see it yet, but soon you will. And once you begin to see failure in this new way, you can look around and notice how it helps us every day. The lessons of failure are not only in big life events, but also in the small moments that shape who we are. Chapter 3. Everyday failures that teach us. When we think about failure, we often imagine something big, like losing a job or failing an exam. But in truth, failure is not always so large. Many failures are small, and they happen to us every single day. At first, these failures feel embarrassing or annoying. We blush, we hide, or we laugh nervously. But if we look closer, these everyday failures are teaching us something valuable. They are small lessons that, over time, make us smarter, braver, and stronger. Let's start with something simple: speaking English. Imagine a learner who wants to practice but is afraid of saying the wrong word. One day, she goes to a shop and asks for sheet, but pronounces it incorrectly. The shopkeeper looks confused, and the learner feels her face turn red. She thinks, "Oh no, I made a mistake. I look silly." She wants to run away and never speak English again. That is the first feeling of failure, embarrassment. But later, when she calms down, she remembers the correct pronunciation. The next time she speaks, she gets it right. That mistake, that small failure, became the very reason she improved. Without the failure, she would never have learned. The same thing happens in the kitchen. Picture someone trying to cook dinner. They follow the recipe, but they leave the pan on the stove too long. The food burns, and the smell fills the house. Everyone laughs, and the cook feels ashamed. I can't do this, they think. But the next time, they remember to watch the pan closely, to stir, to taste, to adjust the heat. The burned dinner taught them more than a perfect dinner ever could. Now, when they serve the meal, it tastes better, and they feel proud. The mistake that once felt painful becomes a story they tell with a smile. And of course, there is the bike. Every child, in every country, has the same story. The first time on two wheels is almost always a fall. Knees are scraped, tears are shed, and sometimes the child shouts, "I don't want to try again." But later, they climb back on, a little braver than before. With each fall, they learn balance. With each mistake, they grow steadier. One day, they ride down the street, their hair flying in the wind, their face glowing with joy. The same child who once wanted to quit is now free to go anywhere on two wheels. The small failures were not wasted. They were steps on the road to success. Why do these little stories matter? Because they remind us that failure is not always dramatic. It is not always life-changing in the moment. Sometimes it is as small as a wrong word, a burned meal, or a fall from a bike. But the lesson is always there. The embarrassment we feel at first fades, and what stays is the new skill, the new memory, the new strength. The pain of the mistake is temporary, but the power it gives us is lasting. Think about how we feel in the beginning. Before failure, we often feel hopeful. We think, this time it will be perfect. Then the mistake comes and we feel disappointed. We want to hide or we want to give up. That is the before. But if we stay with the process, if we learn, the after is so much brighter. The same student who once felt ashamed of her English now feels confident. The same cook who once burned dinner now prepares meals with pride. The same child who cried after falling now rides fast and laughs with joy. The contrast is clear: embarrassment in the beginning, strength in the end. It is important to notice that these small failures are safe. They do not destroy our lives. They do not stop us forever. But they give us the practice we need for bigger challenges. They prepare us, little by little, for the moments when the stakes are higher. The small failure is like lifting a small weight at the gym. It hurts a little, but it makes the muscle stronger. Later, when you face a heavier weight, your body is ready. In the same way, when you face a bigger failure in life, your mind and heart are ready. Because you already learned from the small ones. Imagine a young man who always avoids mistakes. He never tries new words in English. He never cooks a meal by himself. He never rides a bike. From the outside, he looks safe. He never embarrasses himself, never makes a mess, never falls. But what is the cost? He stays weak. His English never grows. His cooking never improves. His world stays small. He avoids failure, but he also avoids growth. Now imagine another person who makes mistakes every day. She says the wrong words, but then learns the right ones. She burns food, but then learns how to cook better. She falls from her bike, but then learns to ride. She fails more, yes, but she also grows more. In the end, she is stronger, wiser, and freer. This is the lesson. Failure, even in small things, is not a punishment. It is a gift. It is the way life trains us. When we fail in little ways, we become ready for the big challenges ahead. We become comfortable with falling because we know how to rise. We stop fearing mistakes because we know they are only teachers in disguise. So the next time you mispronounce a word, burn a meal, or fall off your bike, do not hide. Smile because you just learned something. Remember that every small failure is a tiny seed. Over time, the seed will grow into confidence, strength, and skill. What looks like a loss today is preparing you for a win tomorrow. And if these small failures can help us so much, what about the big failures? What about the moments in life when we lose something important, when we fall hard, when the failure feels too heavy? If small failures can make us smarter and stronger, then big failures have the power to shape our entire future. And that is what we will explore next. Chapter 4. Big Failures of Famous People. When we look at famous people today, it is easy to think they were always successful. We see their medals, their books, their inventions, their money, their bright smiles on stage. But what we do not see are the many failures that came before the success. The truth is, every winner once looked like a loser. Every strong story of victory began with a chapter of struggle. If we only see the ending, we miss the most important part, the beginning, where failure tried to stop them, but they chose to keep going. Take Thomas Edison, the man who invented the electric light bulb. People today call him a genius, but during his work, many thought he was wasting his time. Edison tried thousands of times to make a light bulb that worked. Again and again, his experiments failed. Some people laughed at him. Others said, "You are wasting your life." But Edison never gave up. He said, "I have not failed. I have just found 10,000 ways that do not work." Finally, after years of failure, his light bulb shined. That small light changed the whole world. At first, he looked like a fool who could not get it right. Later, he was the man who gave light to humanity. Now let us think about Michael Jordan, one of the greatest basketball players in history. Today, we see his victories, his championships, his name written in gold. But in school, he was not chosen for the basketball team. His coach thought he was not good enough. Imagine how painful that must have felt, wanting to play, dreaming of success, but being told, "No, you are not ready." Many people would have stopped right there. But Jordan used that rejection as fire. He practiced harder, trained longer, and built himself into a legend. The young boy who was once rejected became the man who inspired millions. His failure was the start of his greatness. There is also the story of J.K. Rowling, the writer of the Harry Potter books. Before the world knew her name, she was a struggling single mother living in a small apartment with very little money. She wrote her story while her baby slept beside her. When she tried to publish her first book, she was rejected by many publishers. Again and again, the answer was no. Some even said children would never like her story. She could have stopped. She could have believed the voices that told her she was not good enough. But she kept trying. Finally, one publisher said yes, and her book went on to touch the hearts of millions. The woman who once felt invisible became one of the most famous authors in the world. Walt Disney, the creator of Mickey Mouse, faced the same kind of rejection. He was once fired from a job because his boss said he had no imagination. Think of that. Disney, the man who later built a world of dreams, told he lacked creativity. At the start, he looked like a loser. His ideas were laughed at, his businesses even failed, and he went bankrupt. But he did not give up. He believed in his vision and kept working. Today, Disney is a name that means joy, magic, and hope for families everywhere. We can also remember Oprah Winfrey, who is now one of the most powerful women in media. But in the beginning, she was fired from her first job as a television reporter. Her boss told her she was not fit for TV. Imagine how that must have felt, your dream job taken away because someone said you were not good enough. But instead of quitting, Oprah grew stronger. She used her pain to connect with others, to share real stories, to bring hope. She turned failure into her greatest strength. Now, millions listen to her voice with respect and love. These stories share the same lesson. Failure does not mean the end. It is only a step. From the outside, people may laugh. They may say, "You are not good enough. You are wasting your time." But the people who succeed are the ones who ignore those voices and keep moving. At first, they look like losers. Later, they shine like winners. The road to success is not straight. It is full of falls, rejections, and mistakes. But every failure adds to the journey. Every fall makes the victory sweeter. Think again of Edison, Jordan, Rowling, Disney, and Oprah. What if they had stopped after their first big failure? We would not have electric light, basketball legends, magical books, a world of Disney, or the voice of Oprah. The world would be smaller, darker, and poorer. Their failures were not wasted. Their failures built the path to success. Now let us bring this closer to ourselves. It is easy to admire famous people and think they are special, but their story is also our story. They felt pain when they failed, just like us. They felt doubt, just like us. They wanted to give up, just like us. The only difference is that they chose to keep going. And if they could, we can too. But here is a question. What happens to us when we fail? How do we feel inside? What is the weight that presses on our hearts when things do not go as we hoped? Before we learn how to grow from failure, we must first understand the emotions it brings. Because inside those emotions, shame, sadness, anger, we can find the strength to rise again. Chapter 5. How Failure Feels and Why It Hurts. Failure is not just something that happens outside of us, like a broken object or a missed goal. Failure also happens inside our hearts. It is not only about the result, it is about the emotions that follow. When we fail, it feels heavy. It feels sharp. It feels personal. To understand how failure can make us stronger, we first need to understand why it hurts so much. Before failure, there is hope. Imagine a student preparing for a big test. She studies hard, stays up late, and tells herself, "This time, I will pass." In her mind, she pictures the smile on her teacher's face, the pride in her parents' eyes, the joy of saying, "I did it." Before the test, her heart is full of hope, energy, and light. She dreams of success. But then the result comes. She looks at her paper and sees a red mark at the top. She has failed. The hope she carried breaks like glass. Suddenly, her chest feels heavy. She feels sadness first, a quiet pain that whispers, "All your work was wasted." Then comes shame, a burning feeling in her face, as if everyone can see her weakness. She thinks, What will people say about me? After shame comes anger. Anger at the test, at the teacher, maybe even at herself. Finally, disappointment settles in, a long sigh that says, maybe I am not good enough. This is what failure does. It takes the bright picture in our head and replaces it with a dark one. The change is quick. One moment we are standing tall. The next moment we are curled up inside, wondering if we should even try again. That is why failure feels so powerful. It changes not just the outside result, but also the story we tell ourselves about who we are. And yet, these painful emotions are not signs of weakness. They are signs of care. We only feel sad when we wanted to succeed. We only feel shame when we hoped others would be proud. We only feel anger because our dream mattered to us. Failure hurts because our goals matter deeply. If we did not care, we would not feel pain. So, in truth, every painful emotion is proof that we are alive, that we are human, that we are reaching for something bigger. Think again about the student who failed her test. For days she feels broken. She avoids her friends because she does not want to admit what happened. She cries at night, thinking she has disappointed her family. In her mind, the word failure becomes her name. But slowly, something changes. Her sadness turns into reflection. She asks herself, why did I fail? She sees that she did not study in the right way. She only memorized, but she did not practice enough. She realizes she needs to change her method. The next time she studies, she works smarter, not just harder. Months later, she takes the test again, and this time, she passes. Looking back, she sees that the failure was not the end of her story. It was the beginning of a better one. Her journey shows us something important. Failure's emotions are heavy at first, but they do not last forever. Sadness can turn into motivation. Shame can turn into humility. Anger can turn into energy. Disappointment can turn into wisdom. The feelings themselves are teachers, pointing us to where we need to grow. Let us think about it like this. Before failure, our hope makes us dream. After failure, our pain makes us stronger. Both are part of the same road. Hope gives us the courage to start. Pain gives us the courage to continue. Together, they shape us into people who can rise again and again. The truth is, we often think pain is a sign that something is wrong. But pain can also be a sign that something important is happening. Just like sore muscles after exercise mean our body is getting stronger, the pain of failure means our spirit is stretching, growing, and preparing for something greater. So yes, failure hurts. It brings sadness, shame, anger, and disappointment. It makes us question ourselves, but hidden inside that pain is a seed of growth. When we care enough to feel deeply, we also care enough to rise again. The pain does not destroy us. It builds us. Now that we have seen how failure feels inside, the next step is to understand what those feelings can give us. Because if we learn to use them, failure's pain can become failure's power. The question is, how can these heavy emotions, instead of stopping us, actually make us stronger? Chapter 6. The Hidden Gifts of Failure. When we first fail, all we see is pain. We see the broken dream, the red mark on the paper, the missed chance, or the lost game. Failure feels like a hole in the ground. We were walking, full of energy, and suddenly we fall. We sit at the bottom of the hole, feeling trapped, thinking, why did this happen to me? At first, the hole feels empty and dark, but if we look closer, we discover something surprising. Inside that hole are tools, tools we never noticed before. These are the hidden gifts of failure. The first gift is patience. When life does not go our way, we have two choices: to quit quickly or to wait and try again. Many people quit. They say, "It's too hard. I failed once, so I will fail again." They climb out of the hole and walk away. But those who stay, who wait, who give themselves time, discover that patience grows inside them. Patience is the strength to keep going slowly, even when the road is long. Imagine a child trying to learn how to ride a bike. She falls once, twice, maybe 10 times. Each fall hurts, but with every fall she learns to wait, to balance, to breathe. Soon, patience helps her ride freely. Without failure, she would never have learned this gift. The second gift is strength. Failure feels heavy, like a weight pressing on our chest. But when we lift that weight, even a little, we become stronger. Think of an athlete who loses a race. In that moment, he feels small and weak. But instead of giving up, he trains harder. He wakes up earlier, runs longer, pushes his body further. The loss gives him the reason to grow muscles of both body and mind. Later, when he finally wins, he realizes the loss was not his enemy. It was the weight that made him strong. The third gift is new ideas. Failure opens our eyes to things we could not see before. When something does not work, we are forced to ask, why? That question leads us to new answers, new paths, new ways of thinking. Imagine a cook who burns a dish. At first, she feels angry and embarrassed, but then she experiments with a different recipe, a different spice, a different method. What seemed like a mistake turns into a new creation, something even better than before. Without the burned dish, the new idea would never have been born. This is the secret. Inside every failure is a gift, but only for the one who looks for it. Someone who quits after failing will never see the tools in the hole. They will climb out and leave the gifts behind. But someone who stays, who searches, who asks, "What can I learn here?" will find patience, strength, and ideas waiting for them. It is like two students who both fail the same exam. The first student says, "I am stupid. I will never pass." He closes his books and never tries again. He leaves the hole empty-handed. The second student also feels sad, but after the tears, she asks, "What can I do differently?" She studies in a new way. She practices more. She asks for help. Later, she passes. And more than that, she has grown. She has learned to be patient, to be strong, to be creative. She found the hidden gifts at the bottom of her failure. Failure, then, is not a punishment. It is a secret school. It is the place where life teaches us lessons we could not learn anywhere else. No book, no teacher, no speech can give us patience, strength, or new ideas the way failure can. Only by living through the pain, by sitting in the hole and searching for tools, do we discover these treasures. But here is the question. Once we find these gifts, what do we do with them? How can we use patience, strength, and new ideas to keep moving forward in life? Because knowing that failure has gifts is only the first step. The next step is to use those gifts to walk toward success. Chapter 7. Turning failure into power. Failure can break us, or it can build us. The difference is not in what happens to us, but in how we respond. Many people fail once and give up. They say, "I tried, it didn't work, so I must not be good enough." But the truth is different. Failure is not the end of the story. It is the middle. It is the turning point. If we use failure in the right way, it can become power. Power that pushes us forward. Power that changes weakness into strength. So how do we turn failure into power? There is a simple path, a step-by-step way of thinking. It is like 4 small doors. If we open them one by one, we can walk out of the hole of failure and rise stronger than before. The first step is accept. When we fail, our first reaction is usually to fight the truth. We say, "No, this can't be happening. I don't deserve this. Maybe it's just bad luck." But the longer we deny the truth, the longer we stay stuck. Accepting does not mean we are happy about failure. It means we say, "Yes, this happened. I failed. It hurts, but it is real." Acceptance gives us peace. It stops us from wasting energy on excuses. Only when we accept failure can we begin to move forward. The second step is learn. Every failure carries a message. If we listen carefully, we will hear it. Imagine a person who studies English but fails an exam. If she only says, "I'm not smart," she will never hear the message. But if she asks, "Why did I fail?" she might discover the truth. Maybe she did not practice speaking enough. Maybe she only memorized words but did not understand sentences. Maybe she studied alone and never asked questions. Failure is like a teacher that whispers, "Here is what you missed. Here is where you need to grow." If we learn from failure, we turn pain into wisdom. The third step is adjust. Learning is not enough. We must change something. If we keep doing the same thing, we will keep failing the same way. Adjustment is the bridge between knowing and growing. Think again of the student who failed her exam. After she accepts and learns, she decides to adjust. She changes her study method. Instead of only reading, she begins to practice speaking every day. Instead of studying alone, she joins a group. Instead of only memorizing words, she starts using them in sentences. The old path led to failure. The new path opens a chance for success. Adjustment is the sign that we are truly moving forward. The fourth step is try again. Many people stop before this step. They accept, they learn, they even adjust, but they never test the new path. Fear holds them back. They think, "What if I fail again?" But the truth is, the only way to turn failure into power is to keep moving. When the student takes her exam again, she is not the same person. She is stronger, wiser, and better prepared. Maybe she passes, maybe she still struggles, but either way, she is climbing higher. Every attempt makes her stronger than before. Let's put this all together in a story. Imagine a man who dreams of becoming a good English speaker. He studies hard for a test. He memorizes hundreds of words. He stays up late at night with books. On the day of the exam, he feels ready. But when the results come, he has failed. His heart sinks. He feels broken, ashamed, and useless. For days, he thinks of giving up. He tells himself, "Maybe English is not for me." But then something changes. He remembers the 4 steps. First, he accepts. He says, "Yes, I failed. It hurts, but it is true." This honesty calms his mind. Then he learns. He looks back at the test. He notices that he knew many words, but when questions became long sentences, he was lost. He realizes he focused too much on memory, not enough on real use. Next, he adjusts. He begins watching English videos, repeating sentences, practicing speaking with friends. He adds listening and writing to his study. Finally, he tries again. The second test day comes. This time, he is nervous, but also stronger. He takes the exam, and when the results arrive, he has passed. The smile on his face is brighter than any pain he felt before. The old approach, memorizing without practice, led to failure. The new approach, accepting, learning, adjusting, and trying again, led to power. This is the path for all of us. Whether it is English, work, relationships, or dreams, the steps are the same. Failure can be a wall or a door. If we stop at the wall, we remain stuck. But if we see the door, we can open it with the 4 keys: accept, learn, adjust, try again. And with each door we pass through, we discover that we are stronger than we thought. And here is the most important reminder. This process works only if we keep going. One attempt, one adjustment, one try is not enough. Persistence, the decision to continue even when it is hard, is the real key to winning. Chapter 8. Why persistence beats failure. Persistence is one of the most powerful tools we can have in life. It is the habit of never giving up, even when things are difficult, even when failure comes again and again. Many people stop after they fail. They feel tired, disappointed, or scared, and they quit. But those who persist, who keep moving forward step by step, eventually reach success. Persistence is what turns failure into power. Think about the ocean. Waves crash against the rocks all day, every day. One wave alone cannot move the rock. 2 waves cannot move it either. But the waves never stop. Day after day, year after year, the waves keep coming. Slowly, the rock changes shape. What the waves cannot do quickly, they can do through persistence. In the same way, we cannot always succeed immediately. But if we continue, failure cannot stop us forever. Now imagine 2 people trying the same goal. The first person tries once and fails. He says, "I am not good enough," and quits. The second person tries and fails too, but then stands up and says, "I will try again." The first person stays in the same place, feeling weak and small. The second person moves forward, learning, growing, and gaining confidence. Over time, the second person gets closer to success. The difference is persistence. Persistence does more than lead to results. It builds confidence. At first, failure makes us doubt ourselves. We think, "I am not capable. I cannot do this." But each time we get back up, each time we try again, we prove to ourselves that we can continue. Slowly, we trust our own strength. Step by step, our courage grows, and we begin to believe that we can overcome even bigger challenges. Let's look at a story to make this clear. A young girl wants to learn how to ride a bike. The first day she falls. Her knees are scraped, her hands are bruised, and she cries. She feels afraid and thinks, "Maybe I will never ride." But her father encourages her. "Try again. You can do it." The next day, she climbs on the bike and falls again. She feels scared and tired, but she tries one more time. Day after day, she keeps going. Slowly, she can balance for a few seconds, then a few more, and finally, one morning, she rides across the yard without falling. The wind blows in her hair, and she laughs. Her success was not magic. It came from persistence, falling, getting up, and trying again until she could do it. Persistence works in adult life, too. A young man applies for a new job, but is rejected. Many people would give up and say, "I am not good enough." But he keeps applying. He learns from every interview, improves his resume, and practices answering questions. After a few months, he gets the job he wanted. Each rejection did not stop him. Persistence carried him forward. An athlete shows the same truth. She loses a race. She feels disappointment, maybe even shame. But instead of quitting, she trains harder. She practices longer, improves her techniques, and strengthens her body. Months later, she wins the next race. Every failure made her stronger, but only because she persisted. The difference between quitting and persisting is simple. Quitting leaves failure in control. Persistence puts you in control. Failure may stop you for a moment, but persistence keeps moving forward. Over time, this small daily choice, deciding to continue, becomes the most powerful force in life. Persistence also teaches patience. Success rarely comes immediately. Like the waves shaping the rock, results often appear slowly. If we try for a week and do not see change, we might feel like giving up. But persistence reminds us that progress can be invisible at first. Every effort, every small step, is quietly shaping our success. And here is the most important point. Success feels much sweeter after persistence. Imagine a student who passes a test on the first try. She is happy, yes, but the joy is small because she did not struggle much. Now imagine a student who failed 5 times but continued to study, learn, and improve. When she finally passes, her joy is enormous. She knows the value of her effort. She knows how much she grew along the way. That is the power of persistence. It turns not only success, but also the journey itself into a reward. Persistence is not easy. It asks us to face fear, pain, and doubt again and again. But every time we rise after failure, we gain courage. Every time we continue when it is difficult, we grow stronger. Every step, no matter how small, brings us closer to our dreams. So, whenever you feel like quitting after failure, remember the waves. They never stop. They keep coming. And one day, they change the shape of the rock. You can do the same. Keep moving, step by step, fall after fall, until you reach your goal. Persistence beats failure because it never stops, and neither should you. Now that we understand how persistence shapes our path, the next step is to feel the real joy and power of success after so many failures. That is the story we will explore next. Chapter 9. The Sweet Taste of Victory. Success is sweeter when it comes after struggle. When we win easily, it is nice for a moment, but the joy is small. We do not feel the full power of achievement. But when we win after many failures, the happiness is deep, warm, and unforgettable. Every mistake, every fall, every moment of doubt adds to the sweetness of victory. We do not just celebrate the success itself, we celebrate how far we have come. Imagine a student learning English. She dreams of giving a speech in front of her class. At first, she is nervous. Her first attempt is shaky. She mispronounces words, forgets sentences, and stumbles in front of her classmates. She feels embarrassed and thinks, maybe I am not ready. Maybe I should stop. But she does not give up. She practices every day. She reads out loud, listens carefully, and repeats difficult sentences again and again. The next attempt is better, but still not perfect. She makes small mistakes. Her heart races, but she remembers to keep going. Each time she speaks, she grows more confident. Weeks pass, and finally, the day arrives. She stands in front of the class, takes a deep breath, and begins her speech. Her words are clear. Her pronunciation is correct. Her sentences flow naturally. When she finishes, the room erupts with applause. She feels a magic in her heart she has never felt before. This is victory after failure. The joy is not just in speaking well, but in knowing all the struggles that led to this moment. Now, imagine another student who gives a speech perfectly the first time. He has no mistakes, no nervousness, no challenge. Yes, he is happy, but the feeling is different. He has not fought. He has not fallen. He has not climbed a mountain. His success is light, but it lacks depth. There is no story of struggle behind it. This shows the difference. Easy success feels good for a moment. Hard-earned success feels like fire in the soul. Every failure we face prepares us for moments like this. Every mistake, every fall, every "I cannot do it" teaches us strength, patience, and courage. When we finally succeed, we feel alive in a way that cannot happen without struggle. The student who failed many times feels pride and wonder. She knows the path was hard, and now the reward feels enormous. Her heart swells with confidence. She realizes all the pain was worth it. The same truth applies to life outside school. A young athlete may lose many games before winning a championship. A writer may face dozens of rejection letters before publishing a book. A worker may fail in interviews before landing the dream job. Each time the victory feels richer, more satisfying, because the journey was not easy. Struggle gives meaning to success. It turns ordinary achievement into a story worth remembering. Failure also changes the way we see ourselves. After winning following many failures, we understand our strength. We know we are capable of more than we imagined. We are not afraid to try again because we have faced failure before and survived. Success becomes not just an event, but a lesson in what we can accomplish when we refuse to give up. Let's return to our student. After the speech, she smiles and thinks back on all the times she wanted to quit. Each mistake, each stumble, each moment of fear was like a step on a ladder. The applause at the end of her speech is not just for the words she spoke, it is for the courage she built along the way. This is what makes victory magical. It is victory with a story, victory with struggle, victory with growth. The beauty of this moment is that it can happen for all of us. The key is how we approach failure. If we fear it, we may hide, quit, or avoid trying. But if we welcome failure as a teacher, as a guide, as part of the journey, then each small defeat becomes a step towards something greater. Failure is not the enemy. It is the path to joy, the path to skill, the path to confidence. Imagine life as a long climb up a mountain. Each failure is a loose rock, a slippery path, or a gust of wind. At first, we may fall, stumble, and feel discouraged. But each time we stand up, we climb higher. When we finally reach the top, the view is breathtaking. The air is fresh, the sun shines brightly, and the journey behind us feels like a story worth telling. Without the falls, the view would not feel so amazing. This is why we should not fear failure. We should welcome it. We should use it to learn, to grow, and to prepare for our moments of victory. Each failure is like a rehearsal for the applause, a practice for the joy, a step toward the magic that comes when we finally succeed. The more we embrace failure, the more we will experience the sweetness of real success. So, remember the student giving her speech. She fell many times before standing tall. She struggled, practiced, and faced fear again and again. And when the applause came, it was more than just words. It was proof that persistence, courage, and learning from failure create something extraordinary. Every failure was a gift leading to this magical moment. The lesson is clear. Easy success is small. Success after struggle is huge. Every failure you face today is preparing you for the moments you will celebrate tomorrow. Every fall, every mistake, every "I cannot" is a step toward a victory that will feel sweeter than anything else. Failure is not a curse. It is a treasure map leading to joy. Now that we have seen how wonderful success feels after struggle, the final step is understanding the big picture. How failing and winning shapes who we are, and why this journey is something to embrace for life. Chapter 10. Embracing Failure as Your Friend. From the very beginning, we have been told that failure is bad. We are afraid to fall, afraid to make mistakes, afraid to look foolish. Many people see failure as the opposite of success. They think that if they fail, it means they are weak, not capable, or not good enough. But this is not true. Failure is not the opposite of success. Failure is part of success. Every step of the way, failure can be our teacher, our guide, and even our friend. Think back to a child learning to ride a bike. At first, the child is excited and full of hope. But then comes the first fall. The knees scrape, the hands bruise, and tears appear. The child feels sadness, frustration, and fear. At that moment, failure seems like an enemy. "I cannot do this," the child thinks. But each fall teaches something important: balance, focus, courage, and patience. Step by step, fall by fall, the child learns how to ride. When the child finally pedals across the yard without falling, the joy is enormous. That first failure was not a roadblock. It was a friend helping the child grow. The same story happens in many parts of life. A student learning English struggles with pronunciation. At first, every word sounds wrong. The teacher corrects them. Friends may laugh. The student feels embarrassed and wants to quit. But each mistake teaches the student how to speak more clearly. Each failed attempt is practice, building confidence and skill. Eventually, the student speaks fluently, giving speeches that inspire others. Again, failure was not the enemy. It was the friend that made success possible. When we embrace failure as a friend, our whole perspective changes. Instead of avoiding challenges, we approach them with curiosity. Instead of fearing mistakes, we look for lessons. Failure becomes an opportunity to improve, to try new methods, and to discover hidden strengths. It teaches patience, resilience, creativity, and courage, qualities that no instant success can give. Think about famous people again. Edison, Jordan, Rowling, Disney, Oprah. All of them failed many times before winning. At first, their failures seemed like enemies, but each time they tried again, they learned something new. Each no became a guide pointing them closer to the right path. Failure was not against them. It was helping them, shaping them into winners. Even in our daily lives, failure is a friend if we choose to see it that way. Losing a game teaches strategy. Forgetting something important teaches organization. Misunderstanding someone teaches patience and empathy. Every small mistake carries a hidden lesson. Every setback has a gift waiting inside. We only need to pause, notice, and learn. Embracing failure also gives us freedom. When we stop fearing failure, we stop hiding. We try things we never tried before. We speak in front of others, take risks, learn new skills, and chase dreams. Fear of failure keeps people small. Friendship with failure makes people brave. It allows us to grow in ways we could not imagine. Let us return one last time to the student learning English. She remembers all the times she mispronounced words, forgot sentences, and stumbled in front of her classmates. Each time she failed, she felt embarrassed and sad. But she kept going. She accepted failure, learned from it, adjusted her methods, and tried again. Eventually, she gave a successful speech. The applause was magical. Looking back, she realized that without all those failures, the success would not have been so meaningful. Failure was her friend, her teacher, her guide. And here is the heart of the lesson. Failure will always come. Everyone falls. Everyone makes mistakes. Everyone experiences moments of doubt. What matters is not that we fail, it is how we respond. If we see failure as an enemy, we run, we hide, and we lose. If we see failure as a friend, we pause, we learn, and we grow. Every failure becomes a stepping stone toward something greater. So do not run from failure. Walk with it. Learn from it. Let it teach you patience, courage, creativity, and strength. Remember that every person who succeeds has a story filled with failures. Every skill we master, every dream we reach, every victory we celebrate comes from the lessons we learned in failure. Failure is not something to fear. It is not a punishment. It is an invitation. It invites us to grow, to try again, and to discover the strength inside ourselves. When we embrace failure, we are no longer alone in the struggle. We have a teacher, a friend, and a guide by our side. Walk with failure. Step by step, fall by fall, rise again and again. Celebrate the lessons it gives and treasure the strength it builds. When you do this, you will see that failure is not the end. It is the beginning of every meaningful victory. Remember the child on the bike, the student giving a speech, and every person who has achieved greatness. Their secret was not that they never fell. Their secret was that they embraced every fall, learned from it, and kept moving forward. The same path is open for you. Failure is waiting to be your friend. Do not run. Walk with it. Learn from it. And then, you will win. Thank you for watching this video until the end. I hope you feel inspired and motivated to see failure not as a problem, but as a friend. Remember the stories we shared today. The child learning to ride a bike, the student giving a speech, and all the famous people who failed many times before they succeeded. Each of them shows us the same lesson. Failure is not the opposite of success. It is part of the journey, and it can teach us patience, strength, and courage. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, share, and comment below. Tell me about a time you failed and learned something important. Your story could inspire others who are watching and learning with us. Also, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications.